As the title card says, how to accomplish any impossible goal in 3 easy steps. Here's the thing. I know the emails and everything else that you guys saw was all about mindset. And that's really what I'm into. But I figured, why not give you guys something a little bit more practical that you can take with you right away? Now, some of the things I'm going to share aren't things that you can just do like today and it's going to be good forever and ever. Amen. Some things you'll have to put some work into, but the work isn't like you're swinging a hammer in a hot Arizona sun fixing a roof. It's internal work. It's mental work. It's actually getting closer to what you want out of yourself, out of life, and the experiences that you want to have. With that said, together, this is what we're going to work on. How our egos get in the way of what we truly want. How to boost your productivity. Remove all procrastination, fear, and self-doubt. Anybody have a problem with those things? I'll raise my hand because I was procrastinating getting this thing together. And how we've been led astray when it comes to success and what that really means. Don't worry, I will tell you exactly what I mean by that, right? And it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be a lot of stuff. I'm going to try to cover it all in the small amount of time that we have. I'm glad Antoine told you guys to bring out your notebooks because, well, there will be some exercises that you will need your notebooks. Again, if you can't do them now, then listen to the replay, when you get a chance to exercises, because I really feel they will be beneficial. All right. So about your host, me, I'm an SF native. I'm a coach and founder of the San Francisco Champions basketball program, club basketball AAU for those who aren't familiar with it. I coach high school basketball now, JV girls at Sacred Heart Cathedral. I'm a software engineer, certified land investor, and land investors coach. So I teach people how to buy and sell vacant land, turn a couple of $100s and thousands, sort of thousands and tens of thousands, sort of tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. Certified mastery coach, author. So I have a book. I love taking naps. I'm a nap enthusiast. I'm probably the best napper you've ever met. Athlete, husband, and father. All right, that's enough about me because right now it's all about you guys. So what am I going to share today? Well, as I was kind of alluding to earlier, I'm starting to really realize what my true motivations are. Now, as a land investor, I don't need a lot of time to work and make income. In fact, I work maybe about 1 to 2 hours a day, just finding land deals, facilitating deals, making money, things like that. So I have a lot of time on my hands, potential time on my hands. And at first I thought I want that time to sit around and watch TV and play video games. But that's not really it, right? First, I need money. But money's cool, but money is not the end all be all. It's just a number in the bank account. I mean, obviously it's important. I'm not going to say that it's not, but having money isn't necessarily what I'm after. As I was talking about a little bit before, the time freedom I have now, I only work a couple hours a day. It's cool, but time just for the sake of having time doesn't do much, right? It just allows you to be bored if that's what you choose to do. But what I really want out of my time freedoms is to pursue my passions. And why do I want that? Well, my passions are a gateway to everything. And in my opinion, whatever your passions are, they also will be the gateway to everything for you too. Please understand, I will explain all of this. It will all make sense and it ain't gonna be all just woo-woo stuff. All right. Now, in sharing this, I hope to enhance your life with the same information that has enhanced my life and that got me excited to even think about these topics, read books about these topics, study, apply, and just to have a more fulfilling life in general. Now, I don't know about you. That sounds good to me. How does that sound to everybody else? Put a 1 in the chat. You think that sounds pretty good?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. Because I know everybody's muted, so if I went to the chat.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. All right. So a quick question. Is there anything out there in the world that you want, but you do not currently have? It could be your health. It could be a relationship, finances, some type of freedom. You fill in the blank, right? You can write that down in your notebook. You can write it in the chat. Either way is fine. But it's very important. I really want you to actually have that in mind, right? Have that in mind. Now, the more specific you can be with this, the better. And again, it will all make sense soon, right? Now, how many times have you tried and failed trying to achieve that goal, right? Whatever that goal is. How many times have you truly tried to make it happen and it just did not happen? Now, the question is why? Did your willpower run out? Maybe you didn't have the support or training. Maybe the goal you thought you wanted wasn't as important to you as you thought, early on. So you have to write these things down, because it will all make sense of what we're going to do. Okay. Now, with that said, write down the goal after we wrote down why things didn't work and whatnot. Now, I don't want no wimpy goal, right? And I don't want something very broad or very general. It needs to be specific. For example, if you want more money, it can't just be to say, hey, I need more money, or hey, I need, $100,000. It can be, I want to make $10,000 per month by doing blank in this amount of time per day, for example, right? If you want to have a better physique, I want to be able to lift a certain amount of weight or run a certain distance within this time period, so I can have it in time for XYZ, right? Specific relationships to get into specific doors. Well, like Nadina, what type of relationships are you looking to get, and what doors, right? Specific. The more specific, the better, right? Now, once you write that down, also write down any skills, resources, or people you will need to help you make that happen. Okay. So again, you're writing out a big goal. Again, early on, don't forget, I said we're going to do the impossible. We're going to do the impossible, right? That's what I said. How to accomplish any impossible goal. Well, the goal I'm having you write down ain't wimpy. Wimpy is not impossible. That's something you have the power to do right now. It's just whether or not you want to do it. I'm thinking about something bigger. Think much bigger. World-class big. All right? Now, what if I told you that you already have everything you need to achieve the impossible? That's my Morpheus right there. All right? But here's the thing. It doesn't matter what I tell you, because if you don't believe me, we will have problems. The reason why? As humans, we hate to be wrong. So right now, what we're going to do first is identify our current identity. All right. So Henry Ford said this, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. You guys kind of understand what he's saying. Basically, what you think is going to dictate how you perform. And I need you guys to keep this in mind, because this is going to be the basis of everything that we do. So because it's that important, I'm going to kind of dive into the psychology a little bit and explain why, and hopefully a couple of things that maybe you've been doing or not doing in your past will kind of come to light, and it'll give you a little grace about yourself. And then because of that, now we can start to, fix the problem, so to speak. Now, anybody know who Roger Bannister is? Roger Bannister, anybody know? Anybody know? Well, if you can't tell, he's an athlete from, I think, the 50s or 40s. He was the first person to break the 4-minute mile, a British medical student, if I'm not mistaken. Now, here's the thing. Back right before he broke the 4-minute mile barrier, medical science says that it was an impossible feat. In fact, if anybody attempted to run a mile in 4 minutes or less, they will literally die. All right? That is the I guess the background we're dealing with here. Now, Roger is a little bit different. He felt not only was it possible, but he was able to do it himself. Now, he's an athlete himself. It's not like he was just some geek off the street. But one day, he decided to go for the record. They had medical crews, they had ambulances on standby thinking he was about to pass out and die. They had this smirk like this guy thinks he's doing what he's doing. And then, guess what? He breaks a 4-minute mile. Now, okay, that's great. Okay, wonderful. But this is the interesting part, because all the way up until human history, no one's been able to run a mile under 4 minutes. But after he does it once, it only took a month for his time to be broken. And then a couple months after that, the time was even shattered by even less. Nowadays, if you run track, you know that high schools can run a mile in under 4 minutes, with proper training. So why am I bringing up Roger Bannister? Well, the same way that people believed the 4-minute mile could not be possible, it kept people from actually running the 4-minute mile. The same thing I'm about to share with you today. If you don't believe what I'm about to share with you is possible, well, guess what? You won't be able to do it. And all the fruits of the labor that you could be reaping, you're not going to be able to benefit from that. Again, once people understood, oh my God, this is possible, the record was broken and shattered and shattered. And again, as I said, high schoolers can do it now. Very important. We need to keep that in mind. Now, here's the thing. Why was it like that with Roger Bannister? Why is it like that with their own life? Well, in reality, to make sure that we are right, we will subconsciously sabotage or enhance our own behavior. There was a time in human history where we had to be very careful what we did. Back as we were cavemen, if we actually tried to do something foolish, we might get eaten by some kind of saber-toothed tiger or something like that, falling off a cliff, eat the wrong berry, you're dead, right? So we had to make sure we did things very carefully, and we actually understood, as we were learning the different risks of just basically living as a human. Now, that still's with us today. And even today, we will pay attention to the things that we like or we agree with, and we will not focus on or ignore anything that we don't like and don't agree with. So you can think about all the times when somebody, think of it this way. You probably told a friend, lover, family member about another human being. And for whatever reason, they didn't listen to anything you said. Like, I ain't listening to you. You don't know what you're talking about. They're not like that when you're not around, this and that. You can't tell them nothing, right? Because they will ignore all of the red flags and only focus on the things that they want to focus on because they don't want to be wrong. And it's not a conscious thing. It's a subconscious thing, right? Now, here's the thing. What is right or correct is based off the views you have about yourself. So it's not about a morality thing or a mathematical equation type of deal. It's basically, how do you see yourself? What is your current identity, right? So you probably saying, hey, man, I don't do that. That ain't like me. Or you're like, you know how I do. This is what this is how I get down, right? We're just proclaiming to the world how we like to operate, right? And that's all built off our self-beliefs. Now, question for you, what do you normally want to be right about? For some people, it's their habits, it's their beliefs, it's their worldview, abilities. In reality, it's all those things and everything, right? Again, we got to keep our mental state, where this is what our ego thinks, in a certain way. Otherwise, we will die. We will lose our lives. So we have to hold tight to these certain beliefs. And that's kind of why we have to be, we feel this way. Now, the ego is a part of you, but it's not you, right? That ego is that nagging critic that we all develop in our childhood. So our ego, inner critic. So here's the thing. I'm going to keep it real with you. If you can shut up your ego, you can shut up the inner critic, you will be happier. No maybes about it, right? Now, if your fear goes away and your risk-taking increases, there are things that you think are not possible will be possible, but nothing happens without risk. But that inner critic prevents us from taking risks. Because again, at one point, if we took a risk, it could end our lives, right? How many of you are tired of your inner critic? Nadina says her ego's gotten me into so many troubling situations. You and me both. Now, question, who or what does your inner critic sound like? Sometimes they sound like some of my old friends. Sometimes they sound like my parents. Sometimes they sound like the me that I think I should be, as opposed to the me who I am. For you, you can write it down. You can put in the comments whatever you need to do. The better we can identify this inner critic, the easier it will be to ignore it when we need to push forward.
Vic.
Now, our default programming. This all comes from the outside world. It becomes our autopilot software. So between the years of basically when you're born to 4 years old, half of your worldview, your paradigms, your beliefs, they're already in place. So as you're learning to walk, talk, eat, feed yourself, all those things, you're learning about the world around you and how things work. And if you're in the wrong environment or the right environment, all that information becomes reality for you. Between the years of 4 and 8 years old, the next 30% of your beliefs, they're set in place. So as you're growing, you're starting to go to school, you're making friends, all that. You're learning more about the world, more about yourself. And now you're at 80% of your autopilot software. It's already in place. This is why some people, even though they're adults, they still act like children because that's what they know. And then between the years of 8 and 18, the next 15% of your world views and beliefs are in place. So that means 95% of our default programming is in us before we even become adults. Why is that a problem? Well, again, as I said, some people still act like kids. And as kids, we're supposed to make mistakes. Our brains are still developing. However, we're defining different beliefs that will not serve us as adults. But because they become our default programming, we're sometimes blind to those things. So let's see, Felicia says, it could be a fantasy world and make me feel it's real and has happened. This I know comes from past negative experiences. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Now, real quick, thoughts versus facts with our programming. Your BS is like a filter we have for everything we experience. Now, BS can stand for what you think it is, but in this case, it stands for belief system. But a lot of times it's synonymous with the, you know. Now, here's the thing. Your thoughts, they can be interpretation of the actual facts. Facts themselves, they're neutral. They're not good. They're not bad. Like, it's like the real life circumstances that we're in. There's no judgment that goes with it or interpretation. The facts are what they are, right? My sweater is black. 2 + 2 is 4. The sky is blue, right? There's nothing good or bad about those things. It just is. Now, it's not about if you like it or not. It's just, how life is. However, we often interpret or color the facts to make them good or bad to us based off our default programming, right? Anybody got any examples to share? Like, I'll give you a quick one. For some people, if they see a cloudy sky, a gray sky, they start to get down. They start to add like seasonal depression, right? There's nothing wrong with a cloudy sky. Some people may see a cloudy sky and get excited because like that means rain is coming. And in California, we need the rain. Granted, we had a bunch of storms and all that, and we got a bunch of rain. I'm kind of tired of it, but that's neither here nor there. All right. But the point is, we all can see the same things. As how we look at it and how we tell ourselves this is good or bad will color the facts. And it's all based on our default programming.
Like those mood rings.
Like those mood rings. Exactly. Exactly. All right. So another example, let's take a fact of your income, whether it's high, low, whatever it is. And even that's still an interpretation if it's high or low. Like, one possible interpretation is I don't have enough money. It's hard to earn. It doesn't grow in trees, whatever it is. But when you think those thoughts, what emotion comes up for you? And when you do think those, how do they really show up in your real life? And then when those emotions do come up, what actions do they normally lead to?
Stress.
Right?
I think
stress. Okay.
Immediate.
All right. For some people, that stress causes rash decisions, right? Things out of character because a certain thought led to a certain emotion, and that led to a certain action. And that action led to a result. And usually you get more of the same. Usually. Now, here's an example a little closer to home. What beliefs do you have about your health? Or if you're a caregiver, the health of your patients? Having sickle cell is a fact. But what interpretations are you giving that fact? Again, there's no negativity or positivity, right or wrong. It's just things to notice. So if you're like, oh, wow, I've noticed I've been adding my own baggage and BS to the fact of blank, don't think all of a sudden like, well, I should be thinking the opposite. No, because you're just going to bring more of the negativity and the anxiety that comes along with trying to fight what's going on, right? Only thing I'm asking you to do is just be aware of it, right? Be aware of it. Now, understand, you are a human being. You're being a human. These things are part of the human experience. That's what I'm saying. It's still good or bad, right or wrong. Just notice them. And as you start to decouple whatever energy from certain things, or you can add certain energy to things if you need to, you will start to notice how your life will change, how you see things, how you react to things like that. The only goal here is, as you're kind of taking away the emotion out of facts out of your life, is just to understand, are you moving towards your goal? Remember, we wrote that big goal down. Don't worry, we're going to get to that pretty soon. All right. Again, not good or bad, right or wrong. It just is.
Hey, Vic, I had a question.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm not totally sure if I'm moving ahead too quickly. I was just kind of thinking about what you were talking about and how the emotion sets in very quickly after an action or a belief has come across your mind or part of your movement. And I feel like a lot of times when you say you are being a human, that particular statement to me sounds like we fail to understand how to give ourselves an assessment about what's going on before we choose to create another action. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And that's kind of it, but it's also like you're going to have those thoughts and those reactions, because that's what humans do.
Right.
So both are correct.
Okay.
Right. It is very good to have kind of stop, slow down, make a, understand what's going on, recognize the emotion that you're feeling, and understand, hey, I'm adding that to the situation. I'm not saying it's easy not to do that. It's very difficult for many things, right? Let's say your loved one is sick. Of course, it's hard to not put emotion or have emotion thinking about that thought. But in reality, the sickness is neither good nor bad. And it took a while for me to really understand that. But once you do, it kind of changes how you see things. Not that I don't feel emotion. I feel a ton of emotions. But it just kind of helps me to kind of pause, take a beat, and then make the appropriate actions or say the right things if possible, or whatever it is, right? Not saying I don't feel it as I'm going through or saying something, but it is what it is. All right, moving on. So you are what you think. It's easy to fall into a victim mindset no matter the illness or an injury a person has. We just kind of talked about that. But you can control your thoughts. It does take practice. You're going to need grit to do it, though. And I will get more into that soon, right? Now, one quick side note, your identity and productivity are two topics that are intrinsically linked, meaning that if you have an identity of someone that gets stuff done, obviously you're going to get stuff done. If you have an identity, oh, I'm a procrastinator, I'm lazy, I only like certain things, well, then obviously that's how your life is going to play out. One thing to remember, your past does not dictate your future. You got the ability to change if you want to. You got to think about it. Your past success or failures, they don't guarantee future success or failure. If that was true, we would never need to practice. And I can't speak for you, but every time I've done something new, I've sucked at it. But once I practiced it, I understood it a little better, I got better. But if it was just, hey, once I did something and however I did it the first time is how I'm going to do it forever, we wouldn't get anywhere as a species. Now, don't forget, Henry Ford's ghost can come and haunt you here. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So remember that. All right, the second step. Now that we understand our old identity, or we have a better understanding of it, I know I have to fly through some of the slides. Now it's time to shed what we don't want and embrace and take on the traits and the characteristics that we do want, right? So forming a new identity. It's going to be very important for what we're going to do after this, right? The new you that you always wanted to be, or that you knew you could be. So why change your identity? So before I give you the secret sauce, we got to make some changes, right? If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you get, right? If you want something different, you want to achieve that big impossible goal, well, we'll make some changes, right? Let's see further. Those in the webinar, what is your old identity? Yes, please share. Please share. I know I'm rushing through it, but I would love for you guys, if you guys are able to, share some of the things about your old identity that are both good and bad, right? None of us is all good. None of us is all bad. But as we trying to change what we're doing, and as we trying to upgrade ourselves, we will now start to see the things that we want to keep and discard the things that we don't want. All right. Now, here's the thing. When things get tough, your identity would dictate how you respond to life, to the situation, to whatever it is. Again, because, our belief system, all of that stuff. Now, you got to where you are with your current identity. Congratulations, you're here. You're still alive. You're still kicking. Hopefully you're still alive if you're on this Zoom. But to get where you want to be, you're going to need a new identity, a new set of skills, a new mindset, a new approach to things. Now, for example, if you only see yourself as a secretary, nothing more, well, guess what? That's all you will ever be. Not saying there's anything wrong with being a secretary. I'm just saying, like, if you want to be just a secretary, that's fine. But then you won't be able to do anything else because your mindset and your belief system will prevent that. Hey, that's not like me. I'm just a secretary. That makes sense? When you believe you deserve 10K a month, well, guess what? You will start to have 10K months, and not a moment too soon. You will never be able to out-earn your current identity. And I'm not even saying you got to get a brand new set of skills or anything like that. It's just how you believe you should be. And it can't just be, I'm just saying it to myself. It's got to be a true, deep belief. The same way your current beliefs have good and bad things that helps or hurt you in your current life, there's nothing wrong, or there's nothing saying that you can't adopt a new set of beliefs that's going to get you a different life than what you want to achieve that impossible. And don't forget, you will always want to be right. So you're like, oh yeah, well, he can tell me these things, but I am just then that's what you're going to be. Or like, you know what, I am this queen or king. And then once you really believe that, you will start to embody and act like that king or queen. And the life that a king or queen deserves to have, you will slowly start to accumulate. Am I making sense? I just want to make sure I'm not losing anybody. I'm not talking over anybody's head and not putting anybody to sleep. We good here? We all right?
No, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about, my apologies for interjecting. I was just thinking about kind of where my old identity, and I kind of wrote it in the chat. I felt like, I got to a point, especially being of the cloth of an athlete, and just a person that, especially now being a dad, we take on this whole identity that, okay, now I've got a true family to support. I start off with my spouse, and her and I are just in a relationship, and we're kind of understanding each other, how to cope with each other when things are rough, and then how to really build with each other. And all of a sudden the child comes in, and I took on this identity like right away, like I have to be the provider, I have to do this. And I don't necessarily think it was a stressor for me. It was more of, I realized 3 years later that I just kind of was selfish about saying that in my mind. Like, I didn't really realize that as I'm saying that I got to be the provider, I didn't take into account that I have a wife that is supporting the family as well. And that could possibly be her inclination as well. But I felt really selfish, and that kind of angered me. So I just said, I'm being way too prideful in this process. And even though I believe that I deserve specific things, my pride, feeling as though I don't necessarily need anything else supportive or resourceful outside of myself, made me struggle to execute what I believed or felt I deserved, even though I was practicing. I mean, I'm not totally sure if I'm totally confusing my words at the moment, but that's just kind of how I was feeling by this whole change your identity process that you're putting us through.
Absolutely. You're basically just confirming what we've all been through. And it's how the ego, as I tell you, it trips you up, right? Oh, you should be doing this. This is who you are. Don't do it that way. Do it this way because of X, Y, Z. Basically, things that you learned as a kid,
Yeah.
right, from the outside world. Now you're starting to see, well, if you shut up that inner critic and you just allow things to happen, and you just like, hey, well, there's many ways to skin a cat. Unfortunate term of phrase, but now you can actually start to get to where you want without the judgment to go along with it.
Yeah.
And you're much happier in the result as a process.
Sure.
Alicia, I used to think due to having sickle cell disease, the best thing I could do in life was only be a mother. Once I changed my mindset around sickle cell, I'm not just a cell, I'm me. I went on to get a double degree in psychology and Africana study, and studied abroad in South Africa for 5.5 months, and got my bachelor's degree. Then my master's degree in MFT in African American Family Services, and now a side D degree. Wow, okay, we accomplished. MFT with my dissertation in cultural competency. Wow. Well, there you go.
So Vic, interestingly enough about what Felicia just presented, I was thinking about this too, and this is kind of something that always comes up in our community for sickle cell. When we started off as an organization, SCAA, what Nadina and I ran into was just a lot of angry people that never stopped being angry. And I felt like as we moved through the first 5 years of our birth as an organization, certain people that started to want to partner with us much more freely recognize that a lot of the anger that we experience and understand about our community, there is a point in time where hope can seep into that. And I guess, we developed a lot of really good things over the past 5 to 10 years, because a lot of folks from the outside looking in were seeing that there was happiness still. There was perseverance through this process. Felicia's another one of those people that, hey, look, I understand I'm dealing with this situation, and I could be angry in a corner somewhere, but you know what? I'm gonna just say, let this stuff go, and I'm going to push towards what positivity. I feel like that's going to uplift every part of my well-being. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's identity change. It changes, it shapes everything, how we see everything. So what may have made somebody angry 5-10 years ago, that same experience can happen again. And now they no longer meet it with anger. Maybe they meet it with compassion. Maybe they meet it with empathy. Maybe they meet it as, it's something silly and funny to laugh at, right? But again, this is just how we are as humans. This is what we do. And we color everything that happens, either good or bad. Is it something to get angry about or not? And the funny thing about anger is normally anger is something that should help you change what you're angry about, right? Fix those problems. It gives you that energy to take action. But some of us, we just allow that anger to stew. And that energy doesn't get expelled doing the good work that needs to be done. And then it just kind of consumes us, right? And now it becomes our new identity.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, no, that's good. That's real good. All right, let's see. Moving on. So we already kind of talked about why it's important. I appreciate everybody for sharing in the chat or out loud. But why is this important? Again, I'm saying this a million times because this thing has to stick. You or your ego always wants to be right. So you will make your thoughts real. So this will make any situation worse or better. Same thing we just talked about, some of the people who are just angry, having sickle cell, or maybe the treatment that they gotten or whatever it was, right? It's the same way where if I had you guys close your eyes and imagine you guys are in a hotel room, but this hotel room is made of pure ice. The bed is ice. There is no blankets. The walls are ice. The floors are ice cold. Right now, some of you guys can actually literally feel the burn of the cold ice on your skin somewhere. Now, if I all of a sudden say the ice is starting to melt and it's starting to heat up a little bit, some of you guys are now starting to feel a little bit more warm. This is just a small example of your brain making something imaginary real. And a side note, your brain doesn't know the difference between your memory and your imagination. This is why visualization works so well, because it can act as if it's a memory and you can use that to kind of help form or reinforce your identity. All right. Hell, I had a dream one time where I stubbed my toe in a dream, not in real life, but I woke up and my foot was hurting. Right? Our brain makes things very, very real. Very real. The same way a placebo can work for somebody who is sick, even though it was just a sugar pill, that's your brain at work, making things happen. So, as I said, this can be used for advantage, but we often use it to our detriment. So we will often jinx ourselves. We was like, oh, I don't want this to happen. Let's just say I had a tray of drinks and I'm holding this tray and I'm like, okay, just don't spill the drink. Don't spill the drink. Don't spill it. What's going to happen? Put in the chat. We all know what's going to happen. But I keep telling myself, don't spill the drink. Don't spill the drink. We're going to spill the drink, right? If we keep saying, oh, I'm lazy, I ain't going to do it now. Guess what? We're going to be lazy, right? This is how we talk ourselves out of everything that we want to do. It's not always a conscious thing that I'm just saying to myself. It's just a feeling sometimes you get in your gut. Oh, I got to do this. Oh. You guys know what I'm talking about. And oftentimes your brain doesn't hear the don't spill. It just hears spill. Spill the drink. Spill the drink. Right? You start to second guess yourself. Right? Again, you can use it the opposite way. So oftentimes I'll tell my kids, instead of saying, hey, don't run down the hall or don't do that down the stairs, I'll tell them something in the positive. Walk down the hall. Carefully walk down the stairs. Right? Instead of saying, hey, don't trip over your shoelaces, tie your shoes. Keep your balance. So if they repeat that, keep your balance, keep your balance, keep your balance. They're repeating that to themselves. What's going to happen? That's right. But if I keep telling them the opposite, don't do this, don't do that, We already know how kids are. They don't listen anyways, but we just want to put that programming in their mind. So
Yeah, Nadina, you sure have that situation on camera.
I have to be on camera and I know what to say, but the minute the camera comes on, my mind goes blank, even though I tell myself it's just a camera. Yeah. Yeah. In your mind, you made the camera of something that is not. You know, I get it. So we will always look for evidence to prove we are right and ignore everything else that doesn't confirm what we already know. Right? You don't got to look any further than politics. That will tell you everything you need to know about human psychology. Just think about if when Trump was in office, the people who supported him, and like you can say, hey, he did this and he didn't do that. They don't care. That's not important. It's fake news. It's this and that. But then something that he did that was good, like, oh, but did you see that he did this over here? Did you see he did that? What about your people? They didn't do this. They didn't do that, right? They ignore everything that they don't want to see, right? I laugh about my wife with her selective memory, right? I mean, that could be a woman thing. I don't know. But I mean, I know the dudes out there know, like sometimes, like a lot of women will definitely hold on to something you did wrong, and they'll hold on to that for a long time and use it at the worst time. But then all the good stuff you do, not that important. Not that important.
Yeah, that's human. I think that's human. Oh, shots fired. That is
Shots
definitely
fired.
human.
Shots fired.
For sure. No, I think everybody has that selective hearing for sure.
Yeah, but that's human. I'm not saying men don't do it. It's just funny for me saying it about women. All right. So now, what is your new identity? So real quick, personal story about me getting back into land investing. When I first got into land investing, so in case you don't know, land investing is I buy vacant land parcels all over the country, especially in forgotten or rural areas that people don't necessarily live in. I buy them for cheap, a couple $100, couple $1,000, and I'll sell for 3 or 4 times the price I purchased them for. Now, when I was doing this before, I was following a certain path, the path I was instructed, and it was okay. But it wasn't bringing in the money that I really wanted. And because I couldn't see a different way to do it, I'm like, oh, this whole thing is dumb. You can never make any money investing in land, blah, 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 blah. So I left it. And I don't know about any of you guys. You guys get targeted on YouTube or Facebook about internet marketing or starting an Amazon store or cryptocurrency trading or Forex trading or whatever it is, right? And those things sound very lucrative. So I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. And you jump into it, and whatever issues that there are, there's issues, right? There's issues with everything. Now, I was under that belief just like everybody else. But one day I realized, like, well, I got to do something because I'm not making any money. And so I got back into what I was doing, but not only did I have a new hunger and appreciation for understanding how to invest in land and make money out of it, that appreciation allowed me to see things in a way that people were telling me before, but I didn't see for myself. I didn't think were possible for me, right? Again, my identity, right? And because I was humbled and hungry to learn and to do what's necessary to get out of my current state of being broke and frustrated, and I was able to kind of put aside my ego and just like, oh, yeah, you've been telling me this stuff for years, and I don't know why I didn't listen. I don't know why it seems so hard. Well, now I'm just doing it, right? This is just how it works. This is how it works. So what I want you to do right now is write down some bullet points about your new identity. Look at the past surface and current issues you're having, but dig deeper. So, for example, a surface issue is, hey, I'm not making enough money, right? Well, that's a symptom. That's not the root cause, right? Even though the money may be making other parts of your life stressful, but there's a reason why you're not making money, for example, right? So we want to get to the reason why that's not happening and then actually start to dissect that so we can make that part of our new identity. Share your new identity that you will form in the comments. You can share it in the you can unmute your mic. I'll give you a couple minutes, right? But yeah,
I wanted to just point this out. I hear this a lot, and I think a lot of us as adults fall prey, especially when we're in positions in life where there's a lot of things coming at us at once, and we feel like we don't have enough time. But I wanted to put this out there. I feel like a phrase that I hear a lot that a lot of people I feel like don't do enough of is the phrase "do your research." I think we're in a position where we get a lot of advertisements over several different platforms that are going to provide us an idea of how we could do something and make it lucrative, or just how we can help quality of life. And the same thing we talk about with people struggling with health that don't look into what things are better for them to eat. Same situation about not looking into enough resources that can provide you an opportunity to see if this chance to make this particular money in this arena is actually worth it or not. Same situation with one of our participants who's here today, Elon Hunt. Last month, she did a webinar on resources that people can use in order to get disability help, financial resources that can help their sustainability, and then other things of that nature. I feel like just people just don't try to find that. Like, they're waiting for it to be placed in their hands.
I'll even interrupt real quick, say that even if you did place it in their hands, because their identity doesn't allow them to take advantage of it, they won't. How do I know this? As a coach, people pay me a lot of money to teach them my skills, right? I basically take all the guesswork and all that out so they can just start investing in land profitably from day one. And they will pay me a lot of money, and I give them everything, including my time. Some people still won't take advantage of it because their identity is still that of a person who does not take action, of a person who does not make money, right? Now, why? Something deeper that they will have to explore on their own. So this is why this work is so important, because it doesn't matter. It's that saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. This is kind of what that comes down to. If they do not believe that they deserve or they can achieve these things at a deeper level, they're not going to do it. And now we know why. Because your brain and your ego always wants to be right, so it will sabotage your behavior to make sure that that internal belief is consistent with the outside world. So it will make sure, hey, you gave me the resource, you've done everything for me, I will still mess it up. I will still self-sabotage. I will sleep in the day that I need to be at the certain place to just pick up the check. I will get in a fight with my spouse, and now we're getting divorced, and now my money's gone. Or I'm going to start cheating on my spouse now, and whatever it is. That's the thing. Until we actually believe change is possible and that we deserve it, that's the key word, deserve it, nothing else matters. And some of us have been told our whole lives that we are not worth anything, that we are second-class citizens, that we will never amount to anything. And because we weren't given the tools to guard our minds from that type of stuff, we allow those thoughts to seep in and they become part of our own identity.
Janelle, go ahead.
I wanted to say that I agree with what he's saying, because growing up, it was put in my mind that I would never be anything, and it was embedded in me as a young age through my family, because I am half Mexican and half Black, so I was too Black to be Mexican and too Mexican to be Black, so I was like an outcast. So, I was treated differently than other siblings and stuff. So, being told that you'll never be anything, you can never accomplish things, that is really true. Like, if you're a child and your parent or somebody around you who you love says that you ain't never gonna be nothing, you're gonna eventually believe that. And I believed it for a very long time until I got older and just was like, fuck that. Excuse my French. I'm just going to, do my life and see what happens. And, my life, I went to junior college. This is back on what you was talking about earlier, but I want to share my story. I just couldn't type it up all the way. But I just went to junior college and I did my thing, and then being in student government kind of fell in my lap. And I was in student government and I was able to change things for disabled students and for students of color. And then I found myself where I'm at now, as an advocate for SCAA and you have these thoughts that you're never going to be anything because it's embedded in your mind. And until you truly believe that you could be something different, better, then only then you can achieve other things in life. But it takes a long time for someone to really believe in themselves.
No, it does. Well, I'll tell you this. It doesn't take as long as you think. And first off, I appreciate you sharing that. That's powerful. I really do appreciate you sharing that. Change can happen instantly. You just have the courage and conviction to kind of stick with it and to truly start to do the work that you need to do it. Even though this is a little bit off topic, a lot of things that I've found to help me to make changes was constant affirmations, visualizations. Gratitude is a big one, where you're just grateful for what you do have, what you're able to do. So you start, again, focusing on the things that you want to see, and you start to ignore the things that you don't want in your life, right? So we can use those same things that we do for a negative, we can use it for a positive. But as you saw, because you absorb that information as part of your identity, until you actually decided to make a change and decide, I don't want to tolerate this life, your parents and your loved ones, they were correct about you during those times, because you probably didn't apply yourself the way you could have, because you were told you will never be anything. So you're like, I guess I'll never be anything. So it kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy until you decided, you know what? No more. F that. I'm going to do things my way. And then next thing you know, boom, now you are achieving at a high level, right? So think about all the other things that you're going to be able to do in this life. Just understanding I do have the power to do the things that I want to do, to make the changes I want to make, to lead the life that I want to lead, no matter what obstacles come in my way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Elon, you got something?
I always do. So I had a similar experience, not as far as the family dynamic, but being a sickle cell warrior. And at the age of 9, it was members of my medical team that told me, you'll be dead by 21. Like, what kind of do you say? Like, you don't say that to a 9-year-old, but it was very strategic in my mind. Wow. Because my mom wasn't in the room. So there was no one there, on that level that could really check them. But I'm going to say it's the grace of God, I took that as, the starting point of me always trying to prove people wrong. It's like, you can't tell me what I can't do. And just because you said it, I'm going to prove you wrong. So I've been that way from the time I was at least 9 years old. And I'm so grateful for that, because that is why I've been able to accomplish as much as I've accomplished. I get joys out of proving people wrong, but at the same time, I get to help other people change that mindset. So, you got to be, just like you flipping land, you got to be able to flip your mindset when people tell you the negative, and you make that work for you. And that's what I said with my identity. I definitely see myself as 12 feet tall and bulletproof. There's not much you can tell me, especially if you're not in a situation where I want to trade places with you. If you're not in that position that I'm trying to be in or similar to, I'm not taking advice from you. Yeah. And that came from my brother, who's a multimillionaire. So, I'm very, very mindful of who I listen to. So if I'm hearing stuff that's a little fuzzy, I'm going to check out. The only thing you can tell me is what not to do.
Sure. Nadina, I mean, same thing with us, right? Can you just give us something on how you felt about like our journey as an organization? I know you've heard a lot of these, this, that, and the third, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's been a struggle and it's very challenging. But I just look at it. You just have to keep moving forward, and that's what your focus needs to be. When you get all that negative energy and people say you can't do this, or I can't help you do this, or you got to learn how to do this. Hey, you can do what you want to do if you want to do it bad enough. And that's like flipping that script real quick. If you want it bad enough, you're going to do that. If you mull and dwell in it or wallow in it, then it's going to take you that much longer. But yeah, we've made a lot of strides with this organization, and I'm happy to say my goal was, my big goal was to try. I mean, I stated it in the chat about trying to resolve all the issues, not all the issues, but the major issues for the sickle cell community. And basically, we're on track. I used to beat myself up about not being where I wanted to be and what it should be. But it is what it is. And we're doing good work, and we get a lot of recognition. So, but it took a long time to get there. So just got to stay your course.
Yeah. So just, to piggyback off of that with our organization, one of our changes in our identity going to our 10th year is just allowing the no's to kind of just go in one ear and out the other and just focus on the yeses. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly what our identity is. And that's how we want to move the course of action for this next year. We have hit 12:07, and it is important for us to do our best to take a quick break just to give, a lot of emotional charge up right now. I can feel it. The energy is incredible right now. And I just want us to make sure that we keep to our guns is what we want to accomplish with this program. So we're going to take about 3 to 5 minutes. I'm going to put it in the chat, the link that I need everybody to click on who's participating. And this survey, we need you guys to fill this out. And if you can do me a huge favor, once you've filled out the survey, there is on your taskbar in your screen for this Zoom, there is a reactions button that you can press. It's right next to the big green share screen one that shows up on your taskbar. Click that reaction and it'll give you a list of things that you can post right next to your name. So when people raise their hand, please put I believe it's a thumbs up that you have finished the filling out the survey. We are going to go on break and I'm going to stop the recording right now.
Awesome. Okay. We all good? Everybody back? Took a bio break, all that good stuff? Stretched?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, let me reshare the screen. So, right, we almost got to right at a good breaking point, but we had some great shares, which was probably a little bit more important. But to continue our conversation about your identity, just some tips to help. Where to begin? Just remember, your repeated thoughts become your beliefs, and those thoughts don't have to be your own thoughts. They could be thoughts implanted by others by basically telling you who you are, what you are, things like that. So the same way we had people sharing that, like, hey, growing up, I didn't have a lot of positive reinforcement. Those thoughts became her beliefs until she decided to change them. Well, it doesn't matter if it's your own thoughts, if it's somebody else's thoughts. If you think them and you repeatedly think them, they become your beliefs. The same way, I don't know if you guys heard this saying, like, a lie told enough time becomes the truth. Same situation where you can lie many, many times and eventually people start to believe it because they heard it so much and becomes familiar to them. So it's the same concept. So what you think about yourself and the world and others stem from you and your own beliefs. So basically, you show people how you want to be treated. You show people how you want to be respected, how you carry yourself, how you interact with others, things like that. No beliefs are good or bad, but they actually can help you get to a certain result or not. So whatever you want out of life will dictate what types of beliefs that you should adopt and embody. And if it gets you closer to that result, then great, keep it up. If not, then consider a change. And your others' beliefs will color how they see you. So you have no control over that. If some people are always angry and you present them with sickle cell information and their beliefs about maybe sickle cell itself or the care they've gotten has been a certain way, and here you guys come and you're presenting information and looking to help, but their beliefs say something different, no matter what you say or do, it is going to be what it is because that's what they see and that's what they know. And then let's all remember this, because we're all humans. We all make decisions at the end of the day because we just want to be happy, or the word safe. So we do adopt certain beliefs that may not help us now, but maybe in our childhood, they did help us. They helped us cope. They helped us to not self-destruct, so to speak. They helped us to survive a tumultuous environment, right? As an adult now, probably not so helpful, but at some point they did help. That's why we adopted them, right? So we're all trying to be happy. We may not be succeeding at it, but that's the goal. And that's why we do adopt certain beliefs and certain identities. So real quick, clarity of self, your vision. Part of the joy is understanding the person that you get to grow into to achieve that big vision. Remember the big goal we have. We're about to get into that very soon, right? You are what you say you are. Now, if you have your notebook right now, write down your identity, your identity and your vision, and declare it to the world. You can yell it in the microphone. You can put it in the chat. Do whatever you need to do, right? But you got to make a decision now, and that decision is absolute, so to speak, right? Don't put, I would like to be rich, right? Or I would like to be, in shape, or I would like to find, the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with, or I would like to be able to give back to my church at this level. Say, I'm committed to being rich. I'm committed to being in shape. I'm committed to finding that person. I'm committed to giving back at the level I want to give back to, right? One's a decision, and we're going to make happen. One is just a wish that who knows what's going to happen. One has power and energy behind it. One doesn't, right? I think we know which one we should be doing if we want to actually achieve that. If we don't, then it doesn't matter what you do, all right? Now, what decisions will you make today? Your new identity will guide you on what the new decision you can make and you get to make and you want to make in your life, right? You have the identity of the fitness buff and the identity of a couch potato, right? That's going to dictate how you make decisions. When it's, let's just say you decided that noon Pacific Standard Time is a time that you have free. What will a couch potato do with that free time? What would the fitness buff do with that free time? You guys see what I'm saying? Nadina says, I'm committed to serving the sickle cell community the best way I can. I heard that. Now, what helps often is to create an alter ego. For my girls basketball team, I had them do this early on to help them understand how they can tap into their own internal power. So like when the big moments comes, they don't freak out. And so when you're creating this alter ego, you're basically like having a picture or image in mind of somebody who would do the things that you want to do. So WWJD, what would Jesus do? So a lot of people use that to understand, like, hey, in certain situations, well, how would Jesus handle this, right? They're tapping into that alter ego, and they're like, well, Jesus would do this, therefore I'm going to do the same thing, right? I want to act this way. Jesus, so they can easily picture what Jesus would do, so they know exactly what to do to handle that situation. They can only do that if they understand who Jesus was and understand how he would act in a certain situation. Now, it don't have to be Jesus. If you're a basketball fan, think, how would Michael Jordan handle this situation, right? If you're into politics, how would Obama handle this situation? If you're into investing, how would Warren Buffett handle this situation, right? You can build your own identity. It doesn't got to be somebody that exists. It could be it could be Batman. It could be Superman. It could be anybody. But you have a picture of somebody who embodies the characteristics that you want to embody. And then when you're still struggling, like, well, how should I handle this? And I'm afraid, and this and that. And you think about, well, if I want to be like Batman, and Batman was confronted with this situation, this is how Batman will handle it. Or it could be a person or a persona that you create that's completely original. But hopefully you understand how you can start to paint that and put that together. All right. Now, the part 3, this is my favorite part. This is new information. Some of the stuff, if you guys joined me in the past, you probably heard me talk about some of this stuff before. It's no less important. And in fact, that's the groundwork that we need that's going to help us move forward. Because, well, let me not spoil it. High achievement with your new identity. Let's make this a lasting change. So why do we need that new identity, right? Without purpose or intention, what I will share will not matter, right? Remember, you always want to be, fill in the blank. Your brain always wants to be right. Everybody wants to change, but without purpose, change won't stick. How many times have you got on a diet and got off of it 2 weeks later?
Too many.
Too many. How many times have you set a New Year's resolution and then by January 3rd, you already forgot about it?
I don't even set New Year's resolutions anymore.
Right, because people don't want that disappointment. However, when you have that identity of someone, it's not a change anymore. It's just who you are. It's just what you do. You don't got to think about it, right? Now, don't forget, willpower is never enough. It's a finite resource, right? That means it runs out. You can only have willpower for so long. It's good to kind of get you through tight spots, but it ain't the real deal. It's like the donut for your car, right? You have a donut in your trunk, you get a flat tire, that donut's supposed to get you to a place where you can get your tire repaired. It ain't for you to be driving on for hundreds of miles. We see people in the hood do it all the time. Don't make it right.
All day long.
Right? This is why you can't just power through change or power through a New Year resolution or a diet, because you are acting out of character for what your identity says. So, with that says, when you are living with purpose, change is easy and it lasts because it's not about the change. You're not thinking about the hard work you're doing. You're not even thinking about the end goal. You're just in the moment. So, this is very important. This is why this is in bold. Without a new identity, you will not make it through the struggle, right? And as Black people, we all know about the struggle. But this is something that I alluded to in the very beginning, right? Struggle is your friend. So remember early on, I said, hey, we've been led astray when it comes to success. This is what I'm talking about.
Big, quick question for you.
Yep.
I remember you in the earlier portions of the presentation talking about how between ages 0 through 18, we've kind of formed 95%. Is that the reason why the term stick to your fundamentals or get back to fundamental thought doesn't always work? And does that coincide with or relate to what you're talking about now, how we have to have this new identity? Because what our foundation possibly could be may not be correct for us.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 It's kind of like, you were taught some bad habits as a driver. And, as you're trying to learn new habits to, be a more safe driver, a more defensive driver, you can't go back on your old habits because you weren't taught properly. You gotta, kind of erase that. And the thing is about the 95%, like that stuff is extremely hard to change because, it's, again, that's your autopilot software.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. And then with that 5% remaining, it can do a lot of good and a lot of going through that, or at least recognizing when that autopilot is starting to work and you're like, nope, no autopilot. I gotta focus through this. I gotta be intentional with what I'm doing.
Yep. We got Felicia raising her hand.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. Even though things happen in our lives in our early stages of development, there is a time where we could remember who we were before those bad or negative experiences has happened. So to get to your true, authentic self, it's good to look back so that you can decipher and see and take responsibility for your part in the situation and give the rest back to the perpetrators who have hurt you. And then this is where you can begin to form the new identity, because what you're going for is your truth identity and not what somebody or some other concept that was placed on you.
Absolutely. No, that was a powerful share. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. So, as I said, remember, I said we were led astray when it comes to success. The reason why I say this is because we often are told, by ourselves, or by others, that if we are feeling the struggle, we are going the wrong way. We're doing something wrong, right? It shouldn't be this hard. I'm sure you've heard something like that or felt something like that, right? Because we see people who are good at something and they don't seem to be struggling. It seems to be easy for them, but we're struggling and something's wrong and makes you want to quit and give up, right? But the exact opposite is true. You are basically working out your brain and it's trying to keep up, right? Think of it as a muscle going through a really tough exercise, right? Especially if it's a new exercise. It is doing what it can to kind of find, create patterns or recognize patterns where it can, is doing what it can to absorb the information, because your brain's always bombarded with information and it does a good job of filtering things out because it's just too much that it can handle. And it's trying to do all of that and it sucks. Like, don't get me wrong. It doesn't feel good. It's very frustrating, but the frustration is the key that you are learning. The same way your muscles get sore when you're working out, that you get fatigued after a hard workout. It's like a similar concept, right? Now, here's the thing. Struggle is also the key and the gateway to something, some more powerful stuff, right? So you gotta pay your dues. Go, you know, that's how you're learning the skills. You gotta do the reps, right? You can't be any geek off the street. You know what I mean? You gotta learn how to handle your keep, you know, right? Regulator, right? Handy with the steel, you know what I mean? Earn your keep, right?
Mount up, mount up.
But yeah, these are the reps needed for your pattern recognition and mastery. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. So how do you get past the struggle? Well, honestly, there's no secret sauce to it. You just got to do it. You just got to do it a little bit every day. Experience it, repeat it, embrace the suck. Understand that this is part of something bigger, right? Understand it will get easier. I'm not saying when it's going to get easier, but it will at some point, especially if you don't give up.
Question,
right? Another thing is do what
Vic,
you say you will do.
Vic,
What?
quick question for you. A lot of people try to advise you a specific time frame, like you say, a little every day. Some people say take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes. Is that often true, just to take a couple minutes? Does that really help? Or do you feel like there is an average amount of time that somebody should do a little bit of every day?
That's a fantastic question. And I'm going to answer it in two ways. One, I will say it depends, because we've all heard the saying you need 10,000 hours to be competent or good, really good at something, or to master something, right? And, you know, you're going to pay your 10,000 hours one way or the other. So I guess 5 minutes is better than 0 minutes of getting towards that 10,000 hours. But you don't always need 10,000 hours. And sometimes you can cut that 10,000 hours into like 1,000 hours. And I will explain exactly what I'm talking about. All right, and you'll see why. You'll see why. But with that said, no matter how much time you're able to dedicate, as long as you're consistent with it, that's in my opinion, is more important than the time. Now, obviously, the more time you do it, the better. There's no maybes about it. But sometimes it's just not the reality. So I'm like, well, at least you did a little bit of something. I'd rather take 5 minutes than 0 minutes. But here's the thing. When you say you're going to do what you will do, it doesn't matter how it turns out. The only thing that matters is the fact that you honored your word. And now you're telling yourself and you're reinforcing that identity of who you are, and you do what you say you're going to do, right? You can also practice the feeling of confidence. Honestly, confidence is the feeling that we can generate on command. Normally, we generate it when we do something that we've done before, right? We think, oh yeah, I've done this a million times. I feel good about this. I'm straight. Let's go, right? But oftentimes we generate the feeling of lack of confidence as well. Oh, I haven't done this before. Oh my God. And you start to freak out, right? But we can't actually practice feeling confident. So when we're in a situation, we will perform better. But that pales in comparison to what we're actually about to jump into. Now, why should we want to struggle? Y'all like drugs? To keep it real with you, all recreational drugs, they mimic or disrupt a lot of our natural neurotransmitters. So the different chemicals and stuff in our brain, drugs they try to mimic that in one way or the other, right? So it doesn't matter if you have your opioids, your speed, your coke, your marijuana, your LSD. Our brains literally produce a lot of those chemicals that those drugs synthesize, except you don't have the debilitating like life altering stuff that happens when you start taking drugs, right? When you make a change in your life, you feel a lot of anxiety, but push through it to the other side, be worth it to go through the fire. Absolutely. But with that said, when you're taking those, like the fact that our brains can produce a lot of the same type of chemicals that those drugs synthesize, we literally can get high off our own supply. But the beautiful thing is our stuff is a lot more potent than stuff you could find on the street. So none of that Walter White cooks up, his 98 and 99% pure meth, our brains can do better and a higher quantity, and it doesn't ruin your life, right? So the high I'm talking about is beyond the struggle. So it's just what Felicia was just talking about in the comments, right? The high will make the struggle worth it. The high also makes everything possible. What do I mean by that? The high is found in the flow state. Anybody familiar with the flow state? Okay, I would assume you guys are or not, whatever. I'm going to not familiar.
What's a flow state? Is that a state that's flowing? What's up? What's the flow?
It is. I'm about to get right into it.
All right.
So the flow state is a hard to describe feeling of being so in the zone that everything else falls away, right? So what happens? Time distorts. It either speeds up or it slows down. You are so focused that all outside noise stops. Your true inner voice can now be heard since all the other noise is gone. Some people say, this is God talking to me. Like they literally hear an internal voice, not like a schizophrenic, but you know what I mean, right? You will get a feeling of one with the universe, right? Your brain allows for different parts of itself to communicate that normally don't communicate, and it unleashes unparalleled creativity. And this is when your inner critic finally shuts the hell up. Now you can act effortlessly. I told you I was going to get into this stuff. I told you. Now, during the flow state, you unlock a sense of effortlessness, attention to the task at hand, and as a result in the flow, it's a very energizing experience. This is all the good dope I'm talking about, right? This is where impossible happens, where impossible is now possible. So all those different things that the recreational drugs that people take and that ruin their lives or whatever, in my opinion, from what I'm learning, they probably are looking to get into the flow state. I mean, without understanding what the flow state is and how is it so powerful, right? So here's a quick diagram of the flow state, right? You have the task difficulty of whatever you're trying to do, user capability, and then like if the difficulty is too high or it's too low, you don't get into the state, right? Because you don't need to focus. If it's too high, it's too much anxiety, you can't focus. If it's too low, you're bored, you're not going to focus. So it's a nice happy medium. I'll get into like more details in a moment, right?
Hey, Vic.
So this is going to be text heavy. I apologize, but I really want to make sure all these points are covered. But the term flow was coined by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. You say that 3 times fast. So he's like apparently the father of positive psychology. And he was actually doing a study for, I guess, since the 60s or 70s about what makes life worth living. And Csikszentmihalyi says he named this experience flow. He's not the first person to talk about it. It's been talked about for generations, for thousands of years of human experience, right? Because while he was interviewing with people about the feeling, many described the sensation of flowing along a river. So Nadina, that's why it's called flow, because you're kind of just going with it, right? You're one with the river. The thing is this, like at first he was just interviewing highly successful people, like, hey, how do you do this? Well, how are you so great at this? But then eventually he started interviewing regular people, from your cooks, your maids, Japanese motorcycle gang members, everybody. And they all will come and tell him the same thing, right? That they get into this automatic response where things just happen naturally and it feels good, and either time slows down or it speeds up and all these other things that happen. We'll get into the details of that. Now, why this happens is the science of the brain. It's actually interesting. Like you would think that, because we can think and we can rationalize that your brain must be on like working 10 times harder during the state. In reality, it's the opposite. Your prefrontal cortex, that's basically the part that makes you like think the thoughts that we think and, makes us like second guess ourselves. And that's also where our inner critic lives. It also very energy intensive because it's the newest part of our brain, meaning we have an old part of our brain that, the reptiles have and other animals have. But as we evolve throughout the course of human history, we have developed these other parts of our brain, and the prefrontal cortex is the newest part, right? It's the part where it makes us who we are, where we can, we're self-aware and things like that. But because it's the newest part, it's the least energy efficient. So when we're in the flow state, it turns that stuff off. That's why your inner critic goes away, right? It puts all of its energy into use to the other parts of the brain where it actually helps us go back into pattern recognition. And this is why different parts of the brain can talk to each other. And in the part of your brain that kind of tells time, that's why it shuts off. That's why time distorts. That's why if you're so engrossed in something, you look up, you thought it was only 5 minutes, Like, oh my God, I've been doing this for 5 hours. I know you've experienced this doing something, right? Or you're in a life or death situation, or maybe you're playing a sport and everything slows down. If you're playing basketball, for example, the rim looks like it's as big as the Pacific Ocean. Like, how do I miss? How am I moving so much faster than everybody else right now? How am I not tired right now? Right? That's all part of flow state.
Hey, Vic, quick question. When they talk about like the left and the right side of the brain, how does that tie into this? Because you had mentioned parts of the brain. So they always talk about just specific sides of the brain. They don't talk about parts of the brain because obviously it gets more complex. How does that relate to, like, do you?
Oh yeah, because like what people are
use...
talking about, like your creative side and your logical side.
Yeah.
In the book I was going through, they were saying that's all a misnomer. It's a very bad way to think about it because it's not like half of your brain is creative and half of your brain is logical. Like, parts of your brain, like they basically it's different pieces that work together.
Yeah.
And they will release different neurochemicals to, depending on what's going on at the time. And then so I'll just leave it at that because I'll kind of get a little bit more into it in a moment.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, half left brain and right brain, it's all just a weird, don't listen to that anymore.
Okay.
But anyways, another part of your brain where you actually have your self-awareness and where you begin and where the outside world begins, that also shuts down. That's also how you get that one with the universe feeling, because you don't know where you end to begin. And you really do feel like you're connected with whatever you're doing. And then again, since different parts of your brain are communicating that haven't communicated before, or different pathways to get, pulses from one place to the other, brain waves, new ideas and creativity happens because you're not going through the part that you think hard about and trying to figure it out. Your inner knowledge, your inner resources are actually starting to be come to play. And that's when that inner voice that you can now hear because the outside chatter stops can be heard, right? And this is the beautiful thing. The work is now intrinsically rewarding. So you enjoy what you're doing. It's not now about the end result. It's about doing the work. So who gets into flow? Musicians, actors, athletes, both the extreme athletes, they use death, basically escaping death to help them to focus to get into flow. And then traditional athletes, talking about the zone and things like that. Coders, students, when you're studying, maybe you guys have been there. Some of you guys are going through schooling now, and maybe there's been times you've been so engrossed with what you're studying, time just slipped away. You didn't realize how much time you were studying. And funny note, going back to the question you had before, Antoine, about how many hours you need to like master something, or that question, when you are in flow, you learn things much faster because again, a lot of the noise is gone and the information can be absorbed faster. So like some studies are still like from the military, they learn things about 500% faster. So that 10,000 hours isn't true if you're in flow. That's why it can be cut down drastically if you're learning in the flow state, right? Students, as I said, and as you can see, you can achieve flow in many areas of your life. Like it's easiest to kind of see it in sports because we can feel it and we can see the difference when we're in flow and we're not, or the zone, if you want to call it that. But it can happen anywhere, right? And here's the thing that you guys never tripped off. It blew my mind. We often pay to see people in flow. So when you're watching a professional athlete, like if you're going to watch the Super Bowl tomorrow, a lot of those guys are going to be in flow. When you're watching your favorite musician on stage doing their thing, they're in flow. When you're watching the gymnasts do their thing, they're in flow. When you're watching actors or an improv troupe really, make you laugh and, they're really just clicking and everything you're in flow, right? It is such a part of the core human experience that some people say this is why we are put on the earth, to use this state to kind of do what we were born to do, right? So a better question is, who does not get into flow? Nobody. It's human. It's those neurochemicals. We have evolved to have this so we can get things done. Like flow, like our society as it stands now does not happen without the flow state. Like the things that we have, hell, think about this Zoom meeting that we're on. This doesn't happen with just a bunch of logical thinking. Computers themselves, where we are in medical history, in psychology, where we are with, you name it. We have to be in that creative, energetic space where the work itself is rewarding to get us to where we are now. right? Now, there's a question is, do you remember a time when you personally were in the zone or in the flow state? Like we all have it. I have a couple of times, obviously in sports, but there was one time I was working in college I was creating a video game, and I literally worked all night on the game without any sleep, wasn't tired whatsoever because I was just in the zone. Everything was just clicking. Like I will never forget that experience because I haven't had it in that type of way since. And I've been seeking it. Remember early, like the first slide, I said, I've been starting to realize, why I'm, the motivations behind the things that I'm doing and why I want such time freedom. It's because I've been searching for those emotions and those feelings, right? Those extreme athletes like skateboarders, snowboarders, skiers, surfers, they get in a flow state quickly and often, and that's why they become who they are and why they keep doing these dangerous ass things. Because as they're in that focused state, so they basically don't die, they get in the flow. And then a lot of them, because they're outdoor sports, they can actually become one with nature. This is why they do what they do, right? It ain't just so they can say they jumped over 14 burning school buses on a skateboard.
Is that why the man jumped off the cliff and took his family off the cliff in the Tesla?
Oh, Lordy.
I don't know about all that.
And they went off the cliff and they lived in the Tesla? Wasn't that on the news just here recently?
Yeah, I don't know if that, unless Tesla base jumping the new extreme sport. I don't know about all that.
Okay.
So a lot of people try to talk themselves. That's not a process that will actually help.
Yeah, I don't think you can talk yourself into it because you need to focus on the task at hand. I'm going to show exactly how to get into it. So Stephen Kotler, The Rise of Superman. This is the book I'm going through now. I read his other one or listened to the audiobook of The Art of Impossible, where they're all about this flow state, right? So I had to highlight a couple of things. To really achieve anything, you have to be able to tolerate and enjoy risk. This is also why in the book he talks a lot about extreme sport athletes, because obviously they risk their life and limb just to do tricks on a BMX bike, for example. But anyways, it has to become a challenge to look forward to. In all fields, to make exceptional discoveries, you need risk. You're just never going to have a breakthrough without it. This is why risk is so important. And another thing is that flow appears near the emotional midpoint between boredom and anxiety. So that diagram I had kind of showed you guys what I meant. And what scientists call the flow channel, the spot where the task is hard enough to make us stretch, but not hard enough to make us snap. How hard is that? Answers vary, but the general thing is about 4%. That's it. That's the sweet spot. If you want to trigger flow, the challenge should be 4% greater than the skills you have. So talking yourself up ain't going to do it. You got to be focused on the challenge. You got to be excited for the challenge so it's not anxiety inducing, but it can't be so easy where you don't got to think and it's just whatever, right? You need enough focus to get there, but not so much where it's like, this is over, I'm overwhelmed.
So this is not a situation where like meditation, how does that relate to this?
Meditation is good for mindfulness, and it helps you actually give you that grit and that resilience to focus to help you get to that spot, or to give you that grit and resilience to get you to the point where you're learning the skills that's necessary. So this is Mihai, check Mihai. This is like Stephen Kotler. He based his book off of his findings, right? So signs that we're in a flow state. So as I said, flow is defined as an optimal state of consciousness, a state where you feel your best and perform your best. Actions and awareness merge, right? So according to Sickle Mihai, there are 8 key factors that contribute to flow state: clarity of goals and immediate feedback. This is why I had to be very specific about what the goals you wrote down earlier, because you need that feedback so you can kind of stay in the state. Intense focus, concentration on a specific task. Balance between skills and challenges. We kind of talked about that already. Sense of personal control and agency over the task. It has to be something you want to do, that you have control over. You can't be forced into it. Loss of reflective self-consciousness. This is when your brain starts to shut down certain parts of it so it can just put all of its energy on what you're doing. Time distorts and alters sense of time, as we talked about. Consolidation of action and awareness, and autotelic experience. I mean, again, you're doing the thing because you enjoy doing the thing. not because you're going to get some reward at the end of it. Right? Again, this is when you're in the state, this is when the impossible now seems possible, because you're like, just, oh, I get it. Everything is working for me, right? So why flow? Your work will be rewarding of itself, not something you're doing for the end goal. I have to keep repeating this because this is something that's very important. You get the most powerful highs of your life without ruining your life or the life of your family, right? You don't want to become no dope fiend. You get a lot more done in a lot less effort, right? So those big impossible goals, they become possible in the flow state. That's why I said you can't have no wimpy goals here. You won't be able to get to that state trying to do wimpy things, right? Become one with God or the universe, however you want to phrase it, right? This is where we live up to our potential and fulfill our purpose. And these effects they're often amplified when you do it within a group. So yes, there is a flow state you can get into a group. You may have experienced this if you had like a really engrossing conversation with your friends where you lose all track of time. You got to just focus on the conversation. You're feeling a lot of camaraderie, a lot of that, just that love of just being with your people. Your brain is being flooded with all types of those feel-good chemicals, right? You guys are all flowing together, right? We're in the flow state together, right? At one point, we may have been doing it while we were in this very conversation when we were all sharing our different experiences before the break. Now, with that said, you see how good that can feel. This is why I'm starting to see why people take recreational drugs, right? They're looking to get those feelings without being in the flow state, without understanding that's what it is. But it helps to understand, like, damn, okay, that's the high that they're chasing. I can see why anybody would want to use, artificial substance. Again, I'm not saying they're like, oh, I want to get in a flow state, I'm gonna take this drug. It's, this feels good when I take this drug. They may not realize that you can get that naturally and by doing your life's purpose, right? So, something to think about. Now, there's 13 triggers. 13 triggers. We're almost done. There's environmental triggers, psychological triggers, social triggers, creative triggers, right? You don't need all 13, but, here are 13 that you can use, right? Also understand there's different levels of flow. So there's some levels that are kind of light where you're in flow, but it's not like life-changing, like, oh my God. And others like, you're basically Superman. The environmental triggers are high consequence. So putting yourself at risk of failing. This is not just a physical risk, like you're going to hurt yourself or something. It could be an emotional risk, like telling your family how you really feel, or your friends the truth or whatever. Intellectual risk, right? Trying something you haven't tried before. A creative risk, putting your work out there and understanding you may get judged harshly for it. Social risk, any risk that you're like nervous about, that high consequence forces you to focus. That's the first thing. A rich environment. So create an environment where you are surrounded by a lot of novelty, a lot of unpredictability and complexity. Again, when you're around new things, things are complex, things are unpredictable. What does that cause you to do? To focus, because you don't know what's going to happen next, right? There's no multitasking here. Deep embodiment. This is all about putting yourself into a multi-sensory immersion. For example, don't just read about a new idea, but start putting it into action at the same time. Psychological triggers. Clear goals. Clarity is key here. This is, again, why I had you guys be very clear on the big impossible goals. When you understand exactly what your immediate goal is, your mind does not need to worry about what to do next. Your focus naturally tightens. Immediate feedback. Create a feedback loop that can help you improve your performance in real time. This is the way your mind is focused on the now and not wondering how to make something better. So, Antoine, going back to your question about meditation and things like that, even focusing on your breathing can do the same thing. You're not worried about anything else, but like, I just want to focus on my breathing. Just breathe the way I was taught and just keep doing that. Or I'm working on my jump shot. Okay, I missed that shot. Why did I miss? Oh, well, I need to tuck my elbow in and then shoot more, or bend my knees more, or snap the wrist, or whatever it is. I'm just focused on the immediate feedback, and I see, oh, did the ball go in the hoop or not? If it went in the hoop, did it go in the hoop the way I expected, or did it kind of rattle around before it went down? Right? So I'm so engrossed in what I'm doing, I don't have time or the care to think about other things. Right? And then the challenge to skill ratio. If the challenge far outweighs our skill, fear will seep in. No one wants to fail. Right? If it's too easy, we'll get bored. You don't got to think about it. It's too easy. You got to find that sweet spot between anxiety and boredom. Flow will start to kick in at that point. Social triggers, familiarity. If you're working in a team, get everyone on the same page so you can establish a common knowledge base and communication style. This is when jargon comes and shorthand for things and acronyms and all that other stuff. Blending of egos. Stephen Kotler, the author of the book I'm talking about, describes this quite distinctly as a collective version of humility, where no one is hogging the spotlight and everyone's involved. Very egalitarian. Sense of control. This is all about combining autonomy with mastery to your own challenges and have the necessary skills to surmount them. All right. Close listening. Be fully present and in the now and engaging in conversation. It's all about allowing organic real-time responses to unfold, similar to kind of being engrossed with real-time feedback. And always say yes. Make your interaction additive or additive, as opposed to argumentative. Build momentum by continuing amplifying each other's ideas and actions. And then finally, the creative triggers, pattern recognition. Allow your brain to link new ideas together by tackling problems from completely different and sometimes outrageous angles. That's where the creativity comes in. And taking a risk. Again, have the courage to bring these new ideas into the world, no matter how improbable you think it will succeed. So, we're almost done here. We're about to wrap it up. Remember the goal you wrote down, right? First, you got to believe that it is possible. That's the key. If you don't believe that, then nothing else matters. Next is identifying that goal and then breaking up into sub goals and, maybe even sub goals. With your new identity, your goal clearly defined, the skills and resources and people you need to help, how can you start to tie this all together? Oops. So sometimes we need help finding a goal, or maybe you need something that aligns with your passion. So you actually put it all your effort into it, because maybe you don't do this right away. But Stephen Kotler says passion exists at the intersection of 3 or more things you're curious about. So make a list of 25 curiosities. You don't have to do this now because we're running out of time. Think about a weekend without any social obligations. And then if you have like a free weekend to yourself, what would you do? Right? What information would you Google? What things would you look up? What things would you start to tinker with? Like if you just had the time. What new experiences would you try? The first 10 or 15 curiosities probably pretty easy for you. Like, oh, I've been meaning to get into this. I've been trying to learn how to do that. Oh yeah, I started picking this up, but I got so busy, right? Oh, I wanted to play the bass guitar, but I just got too busy. And I always wanted to take that sailing class, but I never had the money, right? Those first couple things will be easy. But as you get to 15, 16, and you might start running out, that's when the real stretch happens. And you'll start to see things that you may not have thought about. With that said, make sure everything is, very specific, right? So don't just write down food or animals or exercise. And write down like food that requires little prep time, stopping animal cruelty, muscle mass growth, things like that. Hunt for the intersections between the 25 things that you kind of wrote down, right? So look for places where 3 or more curiosities intersect. For example, with curiosities listed above, an intersection would be plant-based food that requires little prep time and encourages muscle growth. You see how those 3 things, they're separate on their own, but you can kind of put them together into one thing, right? And the only way to know the intersection of a curiosity that can lead to passion is to try it. So you may think, oh, okay, plant-based food that requires little prep time and encourages muscle growth. I don't know much about it. So you start to research and you learn it. And you may find, oh, this sucks. I don't like this. Or you may find, hey, this is pretty cool. I want to dig deeper. I want to see what else I can learn. Oh, okay, now I know this. I want to try something. I'm going to try to put this together, right? Maybe this is a business. Maybe this is a way I get back to the world because I'm learning this information that no one else put together in the way I'm putting together, right? This is your passion. This is what I'm talking about. The work itself is intrinsically rewarding. This is how you get in the flow, right? This is how you become that super person. Now, again, following the example above, you can try vegan recipes for bodybuilding. And if you like it, you can create recipes that align with your interests. But again, it may not work. The first thing you come up with may not be the idea that really sparks your spirit. So you got to do this as many times as it takes, right? Try, repeat steps 2 and 3 as many times as it takes to find something. And as you're doing it, time will start to fade away on its own. And you'll start to notice the different things that we talked about will start to happening for you in flow, right? Now, you get past that, you can turn this into a dream job. Because if you just do things on your own, it's kind of a selfish thing, not in a bad way. It's just like, it's just going to benefit you. But what if you can help it benefit the rest of the world, right? If you're just all consumed with something, that's just it. You're just consumed. Good for you. Nothing wrong with that. But what if you can get others involved? What if you can really make a change in your family or in your community or in your state or in your country or in the world? I think a lot of us would choose to be more impactful than less impactful if we had the option, right? So, in my opinion and Stephen's opinion, it's very important to turn that passion into purpose, right? That's how you build businesses around your passion, and you guard against being swallowed whole by your new love. So, in other words, that struggle we talked about earlier, when you understand what's on the other side or that comes with it, it's easy to stick with it, because there's going to be a struggle with anything new. But it's easy to stick with it, and you understand, hey, this ain't just for me. This ain't just for the drugs I'm about to take. I'm about to change my family. I'm about to change my community. I'm about to change my city, so on and so forth. Makes it much easier to stick it out, because now it's a purpose. That makes sense? Is this starting to make sense? You guys getting it? So let's wrap up.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
remember the question asked about what you want in your life? Do you now see the power you have over your life? How you can make the changes you need, and why those changes are important. You're not just for the sake of being changed or being different, because there's a greatness inside of you. There is something that God put inside of you that you can use to help us all out. But without the belief, the change, and then finding that perfect intersection of curiosity and passion, that greatness stays locked up. So, what 3 things did you take away from this presentation? Right? And I appreciate your time. That's all I got. 1 o'clock on the dot. Real good.